Imagine a leader so feared, yet so praised, so despised, yet so celebrated. A man whose name still sends shivers down some spines, while others speak of him with respect. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most polarizing figures in African history, General Sani Abacha. Was he Nigeria's most misunderstood leader, or simply the villain we all remember? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you might just see him in a way you never expected. Abacha is a name that still echoes through Nigeria's political corridors, a name spoken in both hushed tones of fear and loud chants of admiration. But why? How can one man be both a hero and a villain, often in the same breath? Let's start by painting the picture of his rule, a 5-year period that saw some of the most controversial moments in Nigeria's history. Abacha didn't just wake up and decide to be a dictator. Some say he stepped in at a time when Nigeria needed a strong hand, a stabilizer. Under his regime, Nigeria's foreign reserves skyrocketed, from a measly $494 million to an impressive $9.6 billion. He reduced Nigeria's debt and, get this, he brought the inflation rate down from a staggering 54% to just 8.5%. Sounds like the work of a competent, maybe even visionary leader, right? But hold on, there's always a twist. Despite these economic feats, the streets of Nigeria told a different story. Under Abacha's rule, fear was the order of the day. His government was infamous for silencing critics, jailing opposition leaders, and, let's not forget, the execution of activist Ken Saro-Wiwa, a moment that sent shockwaves across the globe. It's easy to see why many consider Abacha a tyrant, a man who held onto power with an iron fist. But here's where things get interesting. Was Abacha really the villain we think he was? Or was he a misunderstood strongman doing what he thought was best for Nigeria? Let's take a detour and head over to Sierra Leone. There, Abacha's story takes a surprising turn. While Nigerians remember him for the repression and corruption, Sierra Leoneans celebrate him as a hero, the man who helped bring peace to a country torn apart by civil war. In 1997, Abacha sent Nigerian troops to intervene in the Sierra Leonean Civil War, a move that many say saved the country from total collapse. The streets of Freetown were once littered with chaos, but Abacha's intervention brought stability. Today, there's even a street in Sierra Leone named after him, a strange honor for a man demonized at home. So, what are we missing here? Why is the man hailed as a savior in one country and a villain in his own? Here's where my own thoughts come in. Abacha was a paradox, a man of contradictions. His actions were brutal, no doubt. His regime is synonymous with fear, corruption, and repression. Yet, he achieved things that his predecessors and successors failed to do. I mean, how many Nigerian leaders can boast of managing the economy as well as he did? But I'll say this. Abacha's economic policies may have looked good on paper, but they didn't translate into a better life for the average Nigerian. People were still struggling. The naira may have been stable, but hunger was widespread, jobs were scarce, and human rights were trampled on. It's like putting gold paint on a crumbling building. It looks shiny, but it's still falling apart. So, was Sani Abacha really misunderstood? Was he the tough leader Nigeria needed? Or was he just another dictator hiding behind numbers and statistics? Let me ask you, what defines a great leader? Their ability to stabilize a country's economy or the way they treat their people? Abacha's story isn't black and white. It's filled with shades of gray, and maybe that's why he's so misunderstood. He was a man who did what he thought was necessary, but at what cost? And was it worth it? Whether you think of him as a hero or a villain, there's no denying that Sani Abacha left an indelible mark on Nigeria and beyond. His legacy continues to divide opinions, and maybe that's the real story here. Abacha wasn't just one thing. He was many things to many people. So, what do you think? Was Abacha truly misunderstood, or do we have him all figured out?
Abacha died on June 8, 1998 while at the presidential villa in Abuja. He was buried on the same day according to Muslim tradition, without an autopsy. This spurred speculation that he may have been executed extrajudicially by way of being poisoned by his political rivals. The government, however, identified the cause of death as a sudden heart attack. His chief security officer, Hamza al-Mustafa, believed he was poisoned by Israeli operatives in the company of Yasser Arafat. Abacha felt unwell around 4:30 in the morning, and by 6:15 a.m. he was dead. Abacha was 54 years old at the time of his death.